It's good, y'all. Welcome back to Niner Wire. I'm your host, Sam, and today we are here to break down more free agency stuff. Last time we did a Niners-based free agency video. This time we're going to cover the whole NFL on a league-wide basis. Should be very fun. We have lots of teams to talk about, lots of players to talk about, you name it. For this video, I have a very special guest, my good friend, Nate, right here. Nate, what's good, man? How you been?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah, for sure, man. I'm looking forward to it. So, guys, format of this stream. So obviously there's a lot of free agents. There's a lot of teams that have been making moves. So format of this, Nate and I both picked 5 signings that we really liked, 5 signings that we don't like, and 5 players for the future that we could that could sign in the next coming days that could be really good out there. And then at the time, if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. As always, we'll have time to answer those at the end, possibly. So stay tuned for that. So let's get right into it. Before we do that, make sure to follow me on Twitter at NinerWireSam. My Instagram is at NinerWire_YT. If you're watching on Twitter, make sure to subscribe to NinerWire on YouTube. I post a lot of stuff there, so make sure to check that out. I mean, I post a lot of stuff on all these places, so make sure to go check that out. Also, guys, another place you can find me, Talking Niners Podcast with me and Kobe. Kobe's been on a few of my videos before. Follow us on Twitter at Talking Niners Pod and listen to the podcast. Available wherever you get your podcast. And as always, you got any questions, comments, concerns, make sure to leave them in the live chat below. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So let's start with our 5 guys that we really like. Nate, do you want to just talk about one of your guys real quick? We can just talk like one guy. That's what I was kind of thinking. Sure. So if you want to start off, take it away, brother.
Yeah, the first guy I went with was Shaq Barrett for the Bucs, re-signing him. I thought he got 2 years, $34.5 million, which I thought was pretty low for I think the value he brings to the Bucs. Some of that might be because obviously won the Super Bowl, wants to keep the team together. Another thing I really liked about it is they got the cap hit to only be $5 million this season. So if you're a Bucs fan, that's pretty awesome to keep it that way. I definitely do not like them, but I think it was a really good signing.
Well, you don't like them because they have Brady and you're a Bills fan. So, I mean, yeah. But Shaq Barrett, definitely a guy I think. I thought he was going to be back with Tampa Bay. I didn't think they were going to be under the cap. You got Levante David back. You got Shaq Barrett back. You tagged Chris Godwin. Overall, the Bucs have basically kept this team together. The Bengals are signing Larry Ogunjobi to a 1-year deal. That's some news right there. Moving from the Browns to the Bengals. I don't have much to say about that unless you had something. Nope. All right. Yeah, pretty low profile move. I know he started on Cleveland, now going over to Cincinnati. Decent move for them, but we're here to talk about, that did happen. He's not going to go up on my list. First guy on my list, I did not get to talk about him on stream last night. Went down late last night. Trent Williams. I got to talk about him, man. I didn't get the chance to talk about him on stream, so let's do it right now. First of all, as I kept saying, literally every stream, we needed Trent Williams back badly, in a bad way. You had left tackle was such a big need for the 49ers, and to get the best one in the league, I don't care how much we paid him. Yes, we paid him a damn lot, but it worked out either way. So we filled the biggest need. The contract, yes, it's big. It works out. But I think the other thing I really like about this, and this, you could maybe say that Alex Mack's my guy, because we got Alex Mack with Trent Williams. I never thought I would see that. I thought that Alex Mack was probably not going to sign with us. Again, I said I wanted Garland because I thought we could only get one of the two. So that's my thing right now with Trent Williams. I'm just so hyped to have him back. And I know, Nate, you're lucky he didn't go to KC. It was so close to happening. There was reports this morning. But, yeah, man, Trent Williams, I'm hyped to have back for this team. If you got any thoughts on that, Nate?
Yeah, I would have been so mad if he went to the Chiefs.
Yeah, hey, man, you guys have a rivalry brewing over there. So, if they added him, Joe Thuney, and Kyle Long on that offensive line, definitely better than the offensive line they had last year. So, that's definitely something scary to watch. And now Patrick Mahomes, that team is absolutely ridiculous. Super Bowl champions right there. I think they're probably the front runners to win the Super Bowl this year again. We'll have to see how the rest of free agency plays out, but they're definitely front runners. So you definitely have to keep an eye out for them. Any big move they make gonna help them in a massive way.
Yeah, my next guy was Corey Linsley with the Chargers. Obviously, with Herbert, young QB, the O-line is so important. Not even just in that situation, but any team. The 2 lines on offense and defense, those are the 2 most important things, I think, on either side of the ball. So getting Linsley, locking him up, 5 years, $12.5 a year for a really good center. I think that's a pretty good contract to get him on. especially if you can get that long of a term and only be paying him $12 million a year, as the cap is going to keep going up and keep getting bigger. I think that's going to be a good deal for the Chargers going forward. They're still the Chargers. I don't know if it'll actually make much of an impact, because I can never see that team actually winning games. But I think shoring up that line for Herbert, I think is really big.
Yeah, man. I mean, offensive line, big need for the Chargers. I kept mocking Elijah Vera Tucker to them at 13. I think I mocked out a lot of times, or Rashawn Slater, because they just need help all over the line. Offensive center, guard, tackle, you name it. They need help everyone to get the best center in the league, really right in the middle of that offensive line with Herbert calling the plays, helping all that. Going to do well. And staying in the NFC West, I see some comments about the Chiefs right now. Do you want to talk about your next guy on your list?
Yeah, my next guy, Joe Thuney from the Chiefs. I think this was something I was furious when this happened. How can that team that's supposed to be in a bad cap situation this year with the lower cap anyways, how can they get that guy? I just think the Chiefs' biggest issue next season, I thought at least going into this offseason, was going to be that O-line. It was obviously their issue in the Super Bowl. The two tackles got hurt, but they ended up cutting them. So I thought the line was going to be an issue and something that other teams playing the Chiefs could expose. But getting Joe Thuney, I think, was a really good signing. I think he was kind of overpaid. He's only made it to the Pro Bowl one time in his career. He's a good player.
It was 4 years, 80, or 5 years, 80?
I think it was 5 years, 80.
Okay, so that's about like, I think that's like 6
million
million a year, or 16 million a year.
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, I mean, Joe Thuney, in my opinion, I mean, he is one of the best guards in football, and I think the reason they overpaid him is because what happened in the Super Bowl. I mean, it's so obvious, and you can blame the tackles all you want. You had, like, I think whoever their left tackle, or it might have been the right tackle, I forget who, he was the same tackle that went up against Von Miller in the Super Bowl, in Super Bowl 50, and that did not turn out well. I mean, he just got absolutely clobbered that game. And I mean, the guards, the interior line was not good all season. I think they were going to go interior line all along in the draft. And then once they released Eric Fisher, once they released Mitchell Schwartz, you really have to revamp that entire offensive line. So there's going to be a lot of work. The Kansas City Chiefs are not done on that offensive line. I'd expect them to take some guys in the draft like Tevin Jenkins, maybe Landon Dickerson, Creed Humphrey. There's a lot of guys. We'll talk about this later, but it's free agent video. Let's talk about some more free agents. But Joe Thuney, definitely another guy I really like. I'm going to move it back to the NFC. I know you just went back-to-back AFC guys. I'm going to go back-to-back NFC guys. We talked about Trent Williams. I'm going to talk about Curtis Samuel, I should say, just for Nate. But Curtis Samuel, this is a guy who, I mean, I think the 49ers, it would be a fantastic fit for the 49ers, but I never thought it was going to happen. You had that money right there. There was a money issue with that. All the cap, you had that, give that to Trent Williams, Verrett, Juszczyk, Mack. I mean, the Niners did a perfect job, but we're here to talk about the NFL as a whole. But Curtis Samuel, in my opinion, him and San Francisco, Washington were the two perfect fits. And he goes to Washington, a team that needs a receiver, a team that everyone mocked Kadarius Toney to in the NFL in NFL mock drafts. And I think there's a reason for that, is because, I mean, Curtis Samuel fits what Kadarius Toney does as well. So, yeah, and I definitely think, I mean, there was a report today, I think it was from Rappaport, that they tried to bring him up at the deadline and get him at the trade deadline. That did not happen. Now you get him here, and you're pairing him with the guy who was his roommate at Ohio State, Terry McLaurin. Those two receivers could be lethal right there. And in my opinion, the wide receiver moves, I know you got a few guys to talk about in your players that you dislike, but Curtis Samuel, gotta say, that's probably the best wide receiver move so far in this free agent class.
Yeah, I liked that one a lot. That was before the free agency and tampering started. He was someone that I knew the Bills probably would not get, but someone I definitely wanted to replace John Brown. I don't know. I just think he's such a dynamic player. He can run the ball out of the backfield. He's young. I really like him a lot. I think that was definitely one of my favorites as well. I think for Washington, whoever their QB ends up being, I think that's big.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to go give you another one real quick, because let's stay with the Washington football team and let's stay with the QBs. Ryan Fitzpatrick. I like this move a lot. And I know people are saying, oh, you didn't get that rookie. You didn't get a guy like Dak Prescott. You're not going out getting a superstar. And you got to hear me out real quick, because there are 4 quarterbacks in the top of the draft that are by far and away the top 4 quarterbacks in the draft, in my opinion. Mac Jones is probably a tier 2 guy, in my opinion. So that's probably the most reasonable bet for Washington in the draft. And I don't even know if he's going to be that good. Again, I've been saying high floor, low ceiling with Mac Jones. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, let's talk about him. I like this move a lot. He is the best bridge quarterback available, and he is a guy that Washington needed, because Washington is not assured a quarterback in this draft. They would have to trade up a lot. Adam Schefter came out this morning and said that they would have to go up to about pick number 6 to get, and the top 6 picks are going to be quarterbacks. There's going to be 4 in the top 6. So in my opinion, I mean, you got to get your guy, your bridge quarterback right there. Best one available was Ryan Fitzpatrick. And you get him for a reasonable price. I think it's 1 year, $12 million, something like that. I saw Nick talking about that. What?
I think it was 10.
Oh, it was 10 million. Okay, that's I know Dalton was 10. I forgot. I saw Nick talk about it on Nothing But Niners last night. So shout out to Nick. I see you in the comments right there. But yeah, and I definitely think this gives you room to draft a guy like Kyle Trask or a guy like Kellen Mond, guys who I believe can be NFL starters at one point. Jamie Newman as well. I think all 3 of those guys can be NFL starters. They need time to develop, though. So yeah, I think you get your bridge quarterback. You can develop one of those 3 guys, or you can wait till next year, because next year the quarterback class could be, it's not going to be as good as this one from what I've heard. I don't do draft research that early in advance, but from what I've heard, this quarterback class, I mean, they could get a decent quarterback there as well. So having Fitzpatrick now probably is going to be his last season in the NFL. It keeps your team in contention. It's an upgrade over whoever was starting last year. You had Kyle Allen, Dwayne Haskins. That's an upgrade from that. I mean, I really like this move. And Washington, man, slowly having a very underrated offseason. Not that many people are talking about it, but we're here to talk about it right now.
Yeah, I like what they're doing a lot. Although, I mean, Dallas has Dak coming back, but I still think they're going to be contending for that division 100%. Really good defense. Obviously made it to the playoffs last year with so many different quarterbacks. And Fitzpatrick, he can win games. And I think with those 2 receivers he has, I think they could do pretty damn well. Antonio Williams as well. So I like what they're doing a lot there.
Yeah, and you still got Antonio Gibson there. They tagged Brandon Sheriff there. So they still got a lot of pieces going from them. They haven't really lost anyone that big. And they also got who's the cornerback that they signed from Cincinnati? What's his name?
I
don't know why. This is the guy I always forget his name. Hold on. Washington team cornerback. It is William Jackson. William Jackson III from Cincinnati on a 3-year, $42 million deal. I think that's a decent signing from him as well. I know he did pretty well last year. I don't watch much Bengals football. That's why I didn't really know his name, but I definitely heard his name being thrown around out there. So yeah, man, I really like what Washington's doing right now. So props to them. I mean, we'll talk about some other teams that we really like what they're doing. We'll talk about some teams that we don't like what they're doing, but Washington's definitely up there for a team that I love what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
For sure. Then you want to talk about another guy?
Yeah. I had to get the Bills involved somehow. I like what they've been doing in the offseason a lot. Going into it, we had basically 3 big UFAs, Matt Milano, Daryl Williams, and John Feliciano. Milano was the first one signed back. He was expected to get $14 million a year. The Bills got him for $11. And then as soon as that happened, I was like, okay, Williams is definitely gone, which I was actually mad about. I would have rather brought Williams back than Milano if I had to decide. But they were able to get him back as well. Only $8 million a year on a 3-year contract for a pretty solid right tackle in the NFL is a really good deal. So I like that a lot. And then going to my next one for the Bills, obviously cutting John Brown and then bringing in Emmanuel Sanders, I thought was a really, I think, underrated move. Sam, you obviously had like a lot of good things to say about Emmanuel Sanders, but I think he brings, he's not as fast as John Brown. Obviously he's older, but He's a really good route runner. I think he has much better hands, and I think he's just a great competitor that I'm super excited to have.
Yeah, I mean, talking about Emmanuel Sanders, obviously us Niners fans know a lot about him. Pivotal part. In my opinion, I mean, if we didn't get Emmanuel Sanders, we would not be where we are today. Even though he was with us for half the season, he brought that mentorship into a young receiving core. I know you got Stephon Diggs. I know you got Cole Beasley. Those are veterans. But you also got a guy like Gabe Davis, who, in my opinion, can be a wide receiver 3. I think bringing in Emmanuel Sanders, and then you put him in that role, kind of like Gabe Davis will take that role over next year is my assumption. So I think having that on that team is going to be really good for the Buffalo Bills. And Daryl Williams, you said it. I don't know too much about Daryl Williams that much, but you said it, man. Absolute. I mean, he's a good right tackle. You don't pay him that much, and you keep all the guys, kind of what the Niners are doing right now. I know Callie says gets an A right there. Niners offseason getting an A. Bills offseason definitely getting an A as well. I mean, you guys are keeping everyone on this team. And I know, Nate, you and I have been talking about that a lot. You not think everyone's coming back. But, hey, man, everyone is. Everyone loves the culture that B Money's bringing there, B Shmoney or BBB, triple Bs, whatever you want to call them. But,
Big baller.
Yeah, exactly. But, yeah, Bills offseason has been looking fantastic so far. Bills, Washington, Niners. There's a lot of other teams out there, but those are just 3 in general that I want to name right there, having great offseason. And we'll find more later as we talk about them. So, and there's still a lot of offseason to go. So we'll figure it out. But yeah, man, you got anything else to say on those 2 guys?
That's all on those guys.
Or anything else about the Bills real quick? Or
yeah, I mean, one of the things you kind of brought up was like all the guys they got were seemingly below their market value. And I think it shows like the culture, the Bills were bad for so long that they actually have a really good culture now, thanks to Bean and McDermott, which is super great to see. And every single one of the guys that came back said it's because they want to be with Josh Allen and they want to have the chance to win the Super Bowl. And obviously the fan base is amazing, but being real, there's not a lot to do in Buffalo. And the fact that they're able to bring all these guys back shows a lot about the team.
Yeah, man. I mean, they built a strong culture. I mean, I honestly really like the Buffalo Bills, partially because like you've kind of just sent me a ton of Bills stuff, and I know a lot about that team. But they have a very similar culture to what the 49ers have been building on this team. And I mean, as Callie says, John Lynch, Parag Marathe, Kyle Shanahan all built a phenomenal culture here. And Adam Peters too. Shout out to Adam Peters too. And Bills are doing the same thing over there. So shout out to the Buffalo Bills for everything. All right, 2 more guys for me. Let's start off with 2 guys. Both these guys were in the NFC West. They're now out of the NFC West. And let's start with John Johnson, who signed with the Cleveland Browns. And I don't know what the money is, but I really like the money. John Johnson is a guy who I wanted the 49ers to sign. Obviously, he was going to be a bit too expensive the way he was playing. So he probably needed to go to a team that primarily needed safety. The Browns primarily needed safety. They have Grant Delpit, who is coming off an injury where he didn't play at all last season. I think it was a meniscus. Maybe, I forget what it was. Maybe an Achilles. I forget what it was. But anyways, Grant Delpit coming into the league, he had a lot of concerns as well. He was very raw coming out of college, coming out of LSU. I think he had tackling issues too, which was it was tackling or coverage issues. One of the two. I forgot which one. There was some glaring issue with him, but his talent definitely, I mean, he was a 2nd-round pick for a reason. And John Johnson now coming in, bringing that veteran leadership next to Grant Delpit. I think you bring up 2 safeties that have a phenomenal link, that can have a phenomenal link to each other and really lock down the secondary. You already got Denzel Ward out there, who's a Pro Bowl caliber cornerback, one of the best in the league. You got Grant Delpit, who could be a rising star. And you got John Johnson, who already is a rising star and balled out last season. I like this move a lot for Cleveland, and it's really going to help out their secondary and defense a lot. So, yeah. You got anything about that, Nate?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Perfect. All right. Next guy I got to talk about, Hassan Reddick, signing with the Carolina Panthers. And only reason I like this, it's a cheap deal. It's a cheap 1-year deal. You get a guy who I thought was going to go for a lot more money on an $8 million contract. Yes, it's 1 year. But I think Hassan Reddick, I mean, he's a 1-year wonder. I think getting that for a 1-year wonder is worth it for both sides. First of all, Hassan Reddick gets paid a lot of money. And second of all, I mean, it's a 1-year deal for a 1-year wonder. The Panthers can move on to him if it was just a 1-year wonder. And also, by the way, reuniting with his coach at Temple, Matt Rule. Matt Rule made him a 1st-round pick. the 13th overall pick in the draft, or I think it was 13 overall, something like that. So yeah, but Hassan Reddick, I really like that move. And we're going to talk about a guy. I'm going to talk about a guy and the guys who don't like. Very similar situation to Hassan Reddick. So, and we'll talk about him. And you pair him up with Brian Burns. That's going to be a lethal duo there in Carolina. And I think I said at the end of last season, I know Washington and Carolina played Week 16 last season. I screenshotted that game and said, hey, 2022, this is going to be the NFC Championship. That could very much happen. The way these teams are building, I know it's a bit of a reach at this point, especially with, there's still a lot of uncertainty at the quarterback situation, but these teams have both been making moves, and I like it a lot.
Yeah. Hassan Reddick was one of the guys, as he lingered out there, he was a guy I kind of wanted the Bills to go after. The only thing I think that should be addressed with him is he's going from a 3-4 in Arizona to a 4-3. And he's been in that situation before and not really produced. Although with the numbers he put up, he had like 12 and a half, 14 sacks, something like that. And yeah, it was a 1-year pretty cheap deal. So I was definitely a fan of that signing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be an interesting thing, the 3-4 switch to a 4-3. Something like that could be very interesting. I do think that they can do that, though. Brian Burns can play outside linebacker. He can play edge. He can play linebacker. He can do a lot in that 4-3 system and a 3-4 system. I think bringing him in, and Matt Rule also helped out Brian Burns a lot, obviously, as Nick says right here. I think he can make the transition. Again, it's a low risk, high reward deal for a guy who should have gotten a high risk, high reward deal. And I really like it about that. So yeah, for sure. You got any other guys you want to bring up real quick before we move on, or anything about Hassan Reddick?
No more on the good side.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, guys, we're keeping this at 5. We're going to try to keep this at 5 so we can talk about everything, get through everything, and give you a good stream because sometimes, when you just talk about everything, it's complete chaos. So yeah, just got to have a bit of structure. But sticking with the Hassan Reddick kind of trend, one of the guys who I really don't like the signing, I don't like Trey Hendrickson signing with the Bengals. He got like a 4-year deal worth somewhere in the 50s range. And this is another guy, 1-year wonder, very similar situation to Hassan Reddick. The only real difference is he's going from a 4-3 to a 4-3. But the thing with Trey Hendrickson I don't like, first of all, you're giving a 1-year wonder that much money. I think that's definitely a bit of a risk at this point. And second of all, another thing I like about Hassan Reddick, they're rebuilding, so it's not that risky. Cincinnati also rebuilding, and now they're banking on Trey Hendrickson to be good. I don't like that. I think that's a massive risk that you're taking. I think the money could have gone somewhere else. Why don't you just re-sign Carl Lawson like that? I think that would have been a much better move. You had Carl Lawson, who made around the same amount of money. Why don't you re-sign him instead of going after Trey Hendrickson? Or if you want someone younger than Trey Hendrickson, why do you just go after Hassan Reddick, who I wouldn't say he had a better season. I think they're actually the same age now that I think of it. Or just draft an edge in the draft. I know it's a deep edge class. You have a very high second-round pick. Second round's going to be where the edge is at, or maybe late 20s is what I'm thinking from what I've seen so far. So why don't you just trade up there or wait till the second round, use an edge right there. I really just don't like this Trey Hendrickson move. It's kind of confusing, but we'll have to see what happens. If it works out, it works out, and I think that's going to be great. It's a high reward deal, but very high risk, and I think that definitely concerns me a lot. You could have gone a guy for a lot cheaper, a guy who I would have liked, maybe Bud Dupree, knowing the Steelers system. That could have been a guy who also could have helped a rebuilding team as well.
Yeah, he got 4 years, 60, so 15 a year for really like another kind of 1-year wonder kind of guy. He was another guy I thought the Bills could maybe look at. But when I saw he got $15 million a year, I would want no part of that.
Yeah, and just to put that in retrospective, I believe not Bud Dupree. He got $15 million a year. Shaq Barrett got $18 million a year, but that's only $3 million more than Trey Henderson. And who would you rather have? I'd much rather pay $3 million a year more for a guy like Shaq Barrett than Trey Henderson. 100%. So I don't really get it. Definitely a massive overpay. And that's kind of the theme of at least Nate's stuff. I know, Nate, you have a ton of overpay stuff in there. So take it away, what you got with that. Unless you have anything else to say on Hendrickson.
That's all. Yeah. My first one I'm going to go with is Aaron Jones. 12 a year for 4 years, I believe is what he got. Everyone says don't pay running backs. which I agree with, unless you have Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, someone that good. Aaron Jones, they don't even utilize him very well in their system. He's been a very good player, but I don't think they get him involved enough anyways. Maybe they did it just because Aaron Rodgers is already pissed off and they thought this could keep him happy. But I did not like that deal at all for the Packers. You took A.J. Dillon in the second round last year. Why would you waste a second-round pick on a running back only to re-sign your running back for more than he's worth, in my opinion? And at probably the most easy to replace position in the NFL. So I was not a fan of that whatsoever.
Yeah, Aaron Jones. I mean, I gotta say, it just doesn't make sense. I thought Aaron Jones was for sure out the door. I thought no chance the Packers are bringing him back, and they bring him back. Okay, if you bring him back, I think that's probably a franchise tag. But no, it's 4 years for $12 million a year. That's going to be in contract that's impossible to get rid of because, first of all, I think that's going to be. I think this is one of the worst deals in this offseason, if not the worst deal, because in my opinion, the Packers are going to want to get rid of him at some point. I know they lost Jamal Williams, moving A.J. Dillon to running back 2, and we'll talk about Jamal Williams in a second. I have something to say about that. But Aaron Jones, I think just paying him as an RB1 when you have A.J. Dillon, who, in my opinion, showed a lot last year. And I think the thing now, I do like this deal a bit more now that Jamal Williams did leave for the Green Bay Packers, because I think now you got A.J. Dillon taking that Jamal Williams role right there, I should say. The one thing that really concerns me is why do you take A.J. Dillon in the second round? That makes no sense. You had glaring needs at linebacker. You had glaring needs at wide receiver. And you take a running back who's not going to start year 2. That's a concern, in my opinion. So I really don't like this deal for the Green Bay Packers, and I think this could backfire tremendously. And imagine if they add another running back to this core who's pretty decent as well. This could backfire a lot. I know you want like that 3-headed monster. I know that that's what Matt LaFleur has been saying, or however you pronounce his name. I'm doing my best Tom Grossi impression right there. But I don't like this deal. I don't see this working out at all for Green Bay.
Yeah, I don't like what that team is doing in any way. They're still going to contend. I don't think they're going to be able to contend for a Super Bowl with what they have. And the moves they're making, I think they're just driving them even worse and worse.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I think the Green Bay Packers are still a decent team. Don't get me wrong. Last year I said the Packers were going to miss the playoffs. I was wrong about that. This team was not a one-year wonder, but the moves have been very questionable. I know you got Brian Gutekunst in there, or however you pronounce his name. I think Pat McAfee just calls him Mr. G, or whatever that is. But anyways, that's beyond the point. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of confusing what they're doing, but I guess we'll have to see what their plan is with that. So yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on to my number 2. And this is the first team I have. I know I have 2 teams. I believe Nate has 2 teams, or maybe 3. I forget. I'm looking at my notes right now. But let's talk about a team in our division, the Los Angeles Rams. And here's why I really don't like what the Rams are doing. They lost John Johnson. They lost Samson Ebukam, and they traded Michael Brockers. Those are 3 key pieces to their team last year. All 3 of those guys were key pieces. They didn't get much for Brockers either. I think it was like a 7th or something. It was not a good deal in my opinion. Detroit definitely won that deal in my opinion. So yeah, you lose 3 key pieces to your defense right there. And you make one move this entire offseason so far, and that is re-signing Leonard Floyd. And you also lost Gerald Everett too, but he's not as critical as the other 2. But the only move you make is Leonard Floyd. That's a concern. This is a team who, in my opinion, is still going to win the division. I said this before the offseason. I said going into free agency, the Rams look poised to win the division. After today, I still think the Rams are poised to win the division. If the Niners get a guy, as Dom says, like Deshaun Watson right here, then I do think that you can get a guy. I mean, I think the Niners could win the division. Probably they will win the division. But right now, the Rams, I think, are set to win this division at this point with a quarterback situation. Well, there's a long offseason to go, but yeah. But the Rams, the moves that the Rams have been making is not that good, man. I don't really like it. Well, they only made one move, and it's by the way, expensive move. The Rams have been like kind of holding on to that cap space right there. I know they did some restructures, which are kind of going under the table, and I want to give props to them for that. I don't want that to go under the table, but yeah, I definitely think the Rams, they need to do a bit more. Maybe they're waiting on a few guys. I don't know, but at this point, the Rams have not been doing enough, in my opinion. They got to make moves quickly.
Yeah. I mean, you're obviously the NFC West guy, but I think I agree with you. They're in definitely, they made the Stafford trade. They are in a position, I don't know. I think they could possibly win the Super Bowl with the team they have just because they have such a good defense.
For
I think
sure.
Stafford's an upgrade, obviously, over Goff. So I don't know why you'd be making these moves that they're making after they've made that trade. It's kind of doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit interesting. I think the moves have definitely been a bit interesting. I think John Johnson was going to go. I didn't expect Samson Ebukam to re-sign. I thought he would sign somewhere else. Obviously, he landed with the Niners. Michael Brockers was the big surprise. And Leonard Floyd came back, which is good for them. I thought they might re-sign him, and they did. But yeah, I mean, it's a bit too early to say that they're losers right now. You definitely need a bit more action from the Los Angeles Rams, though, and that has to happen soon because free agents are going to be starting flying left and right. Now that the tampering window's over, teams can contact people with other teams. I mean, players can be in contact with teams now instead of just agents. So I think, yeah, the Rams got to act quickly and make some moves soon.
Yeah. Going to my first team, I'll go with the Raiders first. I don't know what they're doing on that O-line. I mean, it got a tiny bit better when it turned out they were trading Hudson instead of cutting him outright. But that's one of the best centers in the game. He's like 31 years old. Cutting him, obviously trading Trent Brown, which I'm fine with because he had a big contract. But that just shows kind of the dysfunction of the Raiders in the past. Giving him all that money. He was made the highest paid tackle in the league, and now he's gone after, I think, 2 years. I don't like that. I don't understand what they're doing because they're already a fringe contender, I'd say. So I don't know why they're seemingly going backwards. And when you do that, when you're almost a playoff contender, just puts you in no man's land. You'll get like 6, 7, 8 wins. There's no reason to be there at any point. As a franchise, you would not want to be there. You're not making the playoffs. You're not getting a high draft pick. So I don't really understand what they're doing.
I mean, you've been seeing the memes all around. Russell Wilson wants offensive line, wants to go to the Raiders. Raiders dismantle their offensive line. You've been seeing those memes all around. But, the Raiders offseason, it gets a bit better with Rodney Hudson, but this doesn't make sense at all. I don't get what happened. Apparently, Rodney Hudson requests for his release. Which I don't really like. Trent Brown, I think trading Trent Brown was fine. They had Colton Miller. They had another guy. I think it was like Denzel Good, who they wanted at right tackle. So Trent Brown makes sense. What doesn't make sense, and they brought back Richie Incognito too. So that's good, keeping him. Gabe Jackson, I mean, decent guy. I think he didn't make the Pro Bowl, or did he? I forget.
I don't think so, but I'm not sure.
All right, whatever. He's a good guy, great player, and you trade him to Seahawks for a 5th. The Rodney Hudson makes no sense at all. Again, as Nate said it perfectly, one of the best centers in football, and you got a 3rd for him, which is a good deal in my opinion. I think the Raiders did make a good deal out of him. If he did request for his release, it's fine. But it just doesn't make that much sense in my opinion why you would get rid of Rodney Hudson. I think you still have time to work things out with him. The only way it's good is if they had a bitter relationship for a long time. But yeah, I mean, AFC West there's gonna be some weak O-lines. I mean, Kansas City, Bob says right here, didn't go back to back right there. Thank God for that. But there could be some weak O-lines. I mean, unluckily all the teams are improving their offensive lines besides maybe Denver, but Denver had a solid O-line to start. But AFC West could be a dream for pass rushers soon, depending on how the rest of the AFC West does their offensive line. So yeah, for sure. You got anything else you want to talk about for that?
No, I think just going back to the Raiders, I completely lost my train of thought. You can go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead. If you think about it, you were talking about the Raiders and like Rodney Hudson and all of that. So
With that, how do you let it get out that he's going to be released before ending up making a trade? That loses all the leverage you possibly have. I think if that doesn't get out and you trade him as one of the best centers in the league before that information is out, you can get more than a 1/3 for someone that's considered the best center in the NFL. That's just another thing about the Raiders that I just don't get.
I actually think a 1/3 would have been a decent price for him either way. It's kind of in the middle of the pack, and it's a center. The thing with I know offensive line teams value offensive line so much, but out of all the offensive line, right guard's probably number 1. Then like least important, but center's up there. I feel like some teams rely on center a lot more than others do. The 49ers do. They use a lot of play calling with that. That's one example. Other teams just have their center just to snap the ball and block. They don't really use the center to be that play caller for this team. And that's why I don't think some teams value center, and they don't let it get out there that they do that because they want to offer low. They want to get their center at a low price. But Arizona Cardinals, they could have been my favorites from making moves. J.J. Watt, A.J. Green, Rodney Hudson. I mean, yes, you're assembling the 2016 Pro Bowl team right there. But, yeah, man, it just doesn't make sense. Great move for the Cardinals. Doesn't make sense for the Raiders. And, I know Bob says right here, robbing hundreds of millions of dollars Gruden, man, I don't get what he's doing, man. And also, I think they lost money with Rodney Hudson by cutting him or by trading him.
They saved like $1.5 million.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all. They have to be targeting someone in the draft if they want. Maybe Quinn Miners or Landon Dickerson, someone like that.
Yeah.
I don't really know. The Raiders always reach, so we might just see Creed Humphrey go 17th overall. I don't really know what's going to happen, but yeah, Raiders always making questionable moves, always. You got anything else to say about that? Perfect. All right, I'm going to stick in the NFC West. I have a move that kind of went under the radar that I really don't like. Ronald Darby to the Denver Broncos. I know they need a cornerback, but Ronald Darby he's a meh cornerback. He's not great. He's not bad. He's kind of like your average Joe out there at cornerback, in my opinion. That's how I see Ronald. Do you disagree with that?
I don't know. He was a Bill forever ago. I think he's a solid corner, but yeah, nothing special.
Yeah, nothing special, and he's on the decline, by the way. Ronald Darby, he was pretty good with Buffalo, pretty good with Philly. I think he was with Washington last season, maybe. Yeah, and the Washington, they did have a good secondary, yes, but Ronald Darby didn't make too much of an impact, in my opinion. It was a lot of Kendall Fuller. It was a lot of that pass rush. You saw what the Niners were doing 2019 with that pass rush, made their secondary look so good. But Ronald Darby to the Denver Broncos, $10 million for a guy who's declining in 3-year deal. In my opinion, that's way too much for him. I think you could have gone, if you wanted a long-term extension, I think you probably go like $5 million a year, something like that. That seems pretty good for a guy like Ronald Darby. And then if you want a bit more, then you could go, if you want 1-year deal, then $10 million is fine. Probably a bit more than $5 million, but you got to compare to a guy like Jason Verrett, who went for $5.5 million for 1 year. The Niners got Jason Verrett for half the price of Ronald Darby. And yeah, I just don't like this move that much for the Denver Broncos. It kind of went under the radar. You kind of took all the picks that I had for the moves that you didn't like, which is good. So I have a lot of thoughts to say on that. But one low profile move I really did not like, Ronald Darby to the Denver Broncos. I don't think this is going to go well for them.
Yeah.
And yes, by the way, yes, they needed a cornerback. Yes, I do think they're still going to take one in the draft, and that might help with the veteran leadership, bringing Ronald Darby in. I think they do have a plan for this, but right now I don't like the contract. This is a team who, a lot of people had it as a dark horse sleeper last year for a playoff contender. I think they're close to being a playoff contender, in my opinion, maybe. Kind of a hot take. Drew Lock, maybe you need to fix some things up with him. So, yeah, but Ronald Darby, I don't like too much for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I agree. I do not think the Broncos are close to being a playoff contender with Locke, but that's another issue. My next guy was Andy Dalton. What are the Bears doing? They've gotten themselves in such a bad situation. How are you 20 million or whatever above the cap with a team? They made the playoffs, but
barely.
I don't know how that happened. And
by the way, that was like a lot of people said making the playoffs of the Bears was the worst case scenario because it would keep pace, it would keep nagging, and they wouldn't get a good draft pick. And look what happened. Exactly that.
And why would they give the $10 million to Dalton? Why wouldn't you try and get Ryan Fitzpatrick instead? That'd be such a better option, in my opinion. That you could,
or even I think keeping Mitch Trubisky would have been a better option than Andy Dalton.
Yeah, I agree. I think either of those guys are better than Dalton. Why would you give Dalton 10 a year? He's not going to do anything. Maybe if they want to be worse, but you don't give $10 million to someone that you're trying to tank with, which I don't think that team will do because of their defense. They'll still stay in games and be another one of the I just don't understand when any team stays middle of the pack consistently. It just doesn't make sense for any franchise, in my opinion, unless you think you're close and you're building up. But that's obviously not the case for the Bears. Yeah,
they could be like Washington and take a guy like Kyle Trask or Kellen Kellen Mond to be their backup quarterback or Jamie Newman. But the Bears did it so much worse than Washington. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous how they did it. You bring in Andy Dalton, who's not even close to Ryan Fitzpatrick for the same price. And don't get me wrong, Andy Dalton, good bridge quarterback. I wonder if they do have a plan with him, but $10 million is a lot. And this is a team who made the playoffs, still wants to compete, and it could be on the decline anytime soon. And I just don't see this with Andy Dalton working out this year. Ryan Pace better be fired before the end of next year, before the end of the season of 2021. Same with Matt Nagy, probably, unless they do really well for some reason. I doubt that happens, but I mean, this is the classic McCaskies. They just keep the guys who they hired. They don't want to own up to their mistakes, and then it just backfires every time. And you see it right here. You give Andy Dalton $10 million. You could have given that to Ryan Fitzpatrick. Mitch Trubisky would have been a better option. You could have traded up in the draft with someone. There's a lot of options that they could have do. I really don't like this move for the Chicago Bears. Yeah. And by the way, like, I know they're also trying to trade Anthony Miller right now, who, I mean, he wasn't that good. I mean, the Bears are trying to do a lot, so I definitely think they have a bit more up their sleeve. So we'll have to see how it goes, but the Andy Dalton move is definitely baffling right there. So for sure. All right, let's talk about a player for me. This is my number 4 guy. By the way, none of these are in order the way at least I'm talking about. I don't know if it's different for Nate.
I'm going random.
Yeah, I'm going random too. I just kind of thought of guys, listen them down. The number 4 one, and actually, number 4. I'm going to start with the one that I hate a bit more than the one I said earlier. The Baltimore Ravens. And the reason I don't like what they're doing is they lost both of their edge rushers, and they haven't done anything to do that yet. And edges are going off the board fast. You saw a lot of edges signed day one. Carl Lawson, Bud Dupree, Samson Ebukam, Leonard Floyd. I could go on and on and on about that. They're losing edges fast. They lost 2 edges that day, Matt Judon and Yannick Ngakoue. Those are 2 edges that really solidified that defensive line. And this was a defense that has been one of the top defenses in the league for the past few years, really solidifying that defense. And you lose 2 of your key guys. I mean, I didn't really like Yannick Ngakoue was only there for a season, or half a season, I should say. Yeah. But I don't like this move. I don't like not getting an edge for the Baltimore Ravens. Again, kind of like the Los Angeles Rams, they need to do more action sooner than later. So I definitely think the Ravens, they could have a chance to rebound. I think they got one guy back. I forgot what his name is, like Fox or something. I don't know. They got Wolf. Brandon Wolf, I think is his name, or something like that. That sounds a bit more familiar. But they got some edge back, but he wasn't ever starting. But yeah, I definitely think, and you're in the AFC North with Steelers have a pretty good offensive line. Browns have one of the best offensive line in football, and the Bengals are about to get Penei Sewell, who in my opinion is Trent Williams 2.0, and they're revamping their entire offensive line after what happened to Joe Burrow last year. So I definitely think with the Baltimore losing those edges, they got to replace those guys fast. And again, maybe too early to say that they're losers right now, but as for now, I got to put them on this list.
Yeah, I'm not quite as against it as you are. I think Judon underperformed. Obviously, he had the big year. He got franchise tagged, and now he's gone. So I don't hate it. Ngakoue too. They traded for him last year. I don't remember what they traded for him.
It was the 3rd and the 5th. He got traded from Jacksonville to Minnesota for a 2nd and the 5th, and then Minnesota traded him to Baltimore for a 3rd and a 5th. Yeah,
Ngakoue, I would have preferred them to keep. I don't know. I think Judon was one of the guys, plays well in a contract year and then kind of falls off. Is still a productive player, but not as good as he was in the contract year, which is a pretty common theme in the NFL.
For sure, definitely.
I liked what you said about with the O-lines in that division. I think in my opinion, a pass rush is quarterback is the most important. But after that, I think O-line and D-line are so vital to teams. If you have a good offensive line and a good defensive line, you're going to be good. So I don't really understand what they're doing, letting both of those guys walk. I'd have been fine with one, but not both of them.
Yeah, for sure. I think just keeping one is important, preferably Ngakoue, but I hopefully they have something up their sleeve to help them out, but I don't know if that's the case, especially with edges going off the board, lightning speed like that.
Yeah. I can go to my next guy. My next was Corey Davis. It's okay in that the Jets, I guess, are trying to give something for Darnold, but $13 million for Corey Davis, I don't get that. They started the overpaying that's been all the bad teams have been overpaying. The good and smart teams have not been. It's been such a trend. So I think he kind of popped for him last year, but hadn't done much before. He was a decent receiver, but I just think I don't really get what the Jets are doing. Why would you? You're not in a position to win. You're not gonna be. So I just don't really get that. And I think 13 million was way too much. I'd have been fine with like maybe 8 or 9 a year, but 13 million a year for Corey Davis, I just did not like.
Yeah, actually, I gotta say, like, I don't disagree with you. I don't think it's as much of overpay as you say it is. I think Corey Davis, after last season, had a very good season with Tennessee. He's still fairly young, which I do like that fact about Corey Davis. So I like that. I think it's only a 3-year deal. Is that correct?
2 or 3, yeah.
2 or 3. If it's a 2-year deal, I actually think that's a really good deal. I think it's 3 though. So 3 sounds a bit more right, a bit more correct. Yes, you overpaid him a little bit, but considering what the receivers in this market are going for so far, I think Corey Davis, it's a decent deal. He was one of the better receivers out there, in my opinion. Again, another 1-year wonder. I probably would have given him kind of like a Hassan Reddick deal, or kind of like a Hassan Reddick deal, a 1-year deal worth however much they wanted to pay him. Instead of giving him a lot of money, and yes, it's a bit of overpay. Yes, it's a bit of a risk. I do think it could work out, though. The Jets are desperate at receiver. They're going to have a new quarterback in soon. So it could work out. I don't really know. We'll have to see what happens. I'm kind of neutral on this. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I know, Nate, you definitely hate it a bit more than I do. So,
go
ahead.
I don't know. The receivers are not going for a lot of money. Some are, but John Brown went for a year, $5 million. Why don't the Jets give him 2 years, 10? I think
because Corey Davis had a better season than John Brown. That's the only reason why.
Yeah, but historically, John Brown's a better receiver, and I don't know. It's shown. One thing I saw recently is since I think 2010 or something, the Jacksonville Jaguars have played the most in free agency of any team. Obviously, they're going to get Trevor Lawrence, but they've been a dumpster fire after going to the AFC Championship. So paying a bunch of money in free agency is just never the greatest idea.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, yeah, I am personally, I think you got to build your team through the draft. You see that a lot in the NBA. You saw the Warriors build their team through the draft. Look how they did. And then you see a team like the Brooklyn Nets, who I mentioned earlier, kind of with the AJ Green. They look like that 2013-14 Brooklyn Nets team where they trade all these pieces, use a ton of free agents to bring in. Never worked out. I mean, yeah, free agents, you got to build your team through the draft because those guys really are implemented in the system. The coaches trust them a lot because they drafted them. I mean, that's huge. Being drafted by a team, it's a lot bigger than being signed as a free agent, in my opinion. So, yeah, I mean, I got to say, I guess you're right about that. And I hate it a bit more than I love it. But at the same time, I definitely think this could work out. We'll have to see what happens. But speaking of cheap wide receivers, Rashard Higgins to the Browns, $2.8 million earlier today. In my opinion, that's an absolute bargain for a guy that they needed to keep back. So wide receivers going really all over the place. I know you got some more. Here, how about you talk about your fifth one? Because I know you got a lot to talk about for this one.
So I actually did save
kind of on the receivers.
I saved the worst for last. The Patriots, I don't know what they're doing. Some people
I can just see you grinning in your head at the Patriots failures right now.
Some people like it, but I think the only people like it are Patriots fans that don't know what the hell they're talking about. You're keeping Cam Newton, which I guess is okay, but if you're keeping him to be the starter and you're paying all these guys in free agency, what is the plan? I watched him the times he played the Bills, he'd have guys wide open over the middle, 20 yards downfield, and he throws it in their feet. He cannot play anymore. I'm sorry, he can run. And maybe they have the 2 tight ends, Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, who, I don't know. I was fine with Henry at 12.5 a year or whatever it was, but Jonnu Smith, $12.5 million a year. What? That just doesn't make sense to me. The most receiving yards he's had in a year is 450. So that doesn't make any sense. And then also Nelson Aguilar, $13 million a year. What?
That was ridiculous. By the way, speaking of that, the Raiders paid Yannick Ngakoue the same amount as the Patriots paid Nelson Aguilar. Yeah, they could have gone with one or the other. Who would you rather take between one or the other if you had the option?
Yeah. So
Exactly. Yeah, I mean the Patriots. I gotta say, I mean Kendrick Bourne signed with them. That's an overpay. I thought no more than $5 million for him. That's kind of ridiculous. To the quarterback situation, I heard a rumor today. I'm not going to say it on stream, but there could be news about Patriots quarterback soon. So stay tuned. I don't know if I can say it on stream, so that's why I'm not saying it. But if you know, you know. So I mean that's what I mean the Patriots have probably one of the most interesting off seasons, I guess I should say. A lot of overpays, a lot of other stuff going on. I mean, yes, they have a lot of cap, which I think helps them out. I do like the Judo signing a little bit. Not too much again, but I definitely think that helps them a lot. I thought Jonnu Smith bringing him in was going to be the answer. Hunter Henry, I know they want that kind of like they want to get that Aaron Hernandez, Rob Gronkowski duo back, kind of. I don't think it's gonna. I don't know if it's gonna work out. That's a lot of money to pay both of those guys. Why not go after a guy like Gerald Everett who made $6 million? I think that's a lot better. Gerald Everett and Jonnu Smith, or Gerald Everett and Hunter Henry. I think that would have been a lot better for the Patriots. So I think they could have done their offseason a bit better. So that's what I'm thinking about the Patriots offseason real quick. So yeah.
I just think you can't spend that much and go that all in when you don't have a quarterback. Or at least a quarterback that's decent, like with Cam Newton, unless maybe they're going to pull something up. I don't know, but I just don't see what they're doing. It's shown that that the Patriots are like Belichick is not a good GM. He's a great coach. I will not take that away from him. Everyone knows that. But like their drafting has been bad. Maybe that's why they have not drafted well in years. So maybe that's why they're growing all the free agency. But I just don't think it's a good look.
Yeah, I think Bill Belichick, I don't think you can say he's a bad GM. I disagree with that because look, he's ran this team for 20 years. They've been competitive almost all 20 years. The two seasons they weren't were last year when you lost Tom Brady, and that was a huge hit to the team. In 2008, when there was an injury to Tom Brady, you still went 11-5. I disagree with that, but I think this offseason, I think Bill Belichick, yeah, he's trying something a bit different. He's spending more money than he's ever spent in an offseason. Definitely a bit of an interesting approach, in my opinion. I think they want to really just see, I think they're probably trying to go like all in real quick, just see like one last ride, maybe, hopefully get a new quarterback soon. We'll have to see what happens with that. But yeah, it's definitely interesting what the New England Patriots have been doing. So yeah, I think there's a lot of mixed opinions about that. I'm kind of on your side, Nate. I don't really like what they're doing, especially on what they do at receiver position. And now they're trying to trade N'Keal Harry, which I think is a good move. I don't think N'Keal Harry ever fit their system. So we'll have to see what happens there. But yeah, overall, I don't really like what the Patriots are
one
doing.
more thing on it. What some Patriots fans have said to me is, oh, they have these two tight ends. They're going to run the ball down your throat. Is that the NFL today? No. It can work. Like
the only team that has made it work in the past 3 years is the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah. So it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and I know teams try that. I know the Niners tried that out with Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed never worked out. He didn't have that connection with the backup quarterbacks. Also, all the injuries. I think it could work out with a two tight end set. I think there is potential. I know teams have tried that before. There's always been some injuries. The Philadelphia Eagles have really had the most success with it in the past few years. They really had that three tight end set with Trey Burton as well. So yeah, back in 2017. So I doubt it could work out. The Patriots had it working out with Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez until all that shit went down with Hernandez. So I definitely think it could work out. I think it's a very risky to overpay a lot of guys on that team. But hey, man, if that's who they want, go and get them. Cool with that. But overall, from a fan perspective, don't really like that too much.
Yeah, this really should have been my number one love because I love because I can't see it working. And I think they're just going to be in a bad situation going forward. I mean, one other thing is maybe Belichick, like his time maybe is nearing being over and he wants to win more, but
that's what I would be thinking. I think that's why they brought some guys in. But I mean, the wide receiver definitely confuses me because Nelson Aguilar for that much and Kendrick Bourne for that much.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? I don't even know.
The Raiders got him 1 year, $1 million, and then he gets 13 times that from the
Yeah, I mean, Raiders absolute bargain from them getting Aguilar. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't really work out in my opinion. I don't really like their moves, what they're doing. So yeah. All right. You got anything else you want to say about that?
I don't think so.
All right, perfect. Let's move on to my fifth guy. And this is a guy I don't hate the move. I don't love it at all. Jamal Williams signing with the Detroit Lions. First of all, I think the Lions paid him too much for that to be a backup running back to Swift. I think from a fantasy perspective, this could just be me liking fantasy football. It's a bad move for that because it's going to take away some of DeAndre Swift's carries. Not too much, though. We saw what Aaron Jones did. But I mean, I do like it because they'll know the Packers run system a little bit, and the Packers have one of the best running back duos in the league at this point. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit too much. I also think this is kind of bad for Jamal Williams. I think he could have been more running back by committee system. Lions, maybe they're trying to implement that. I don't really know. Again, new head coach. Again, another one too early to say on. I know Nate kind of took the obvious one, so I'm trying to go a bit more in depth. But yeah, Jamal Williams, what's your thought on that signing, Nate?
I don't know. I was fine with it. It's not a lot of money, and I think he's a decent running back, but
it's $3 million a year, I think, or like something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think one thing is with Goff, the way teams have done well is a really good running game. So it kind of makes sense on that front. But yeah, I don't know. I think you went over pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. All right, you got any other things you want to say about guys you hate, Nate? I
think that's all of them.
Perfect. All right, so to wrap up the stream, I don't know if I said maybe we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. I might have not at the beginning. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat right now. We'll ask them really quickly at the end. So we'll do that. But let's talk about our 5 best players available. And I guess let's just run down our list of the 5. Actually, we'll just go run down. Yeah, let's just run down the list of each 5 for us. So I'll go first. Number 1 for me. And by the way, Nate and I, again, different players. So I guess I'll start this one off. Number 1, Anthony Harris of the Minnesota Vikings. In my opinion, the safety class, there's a lot of safeties out there still. You got Malik Hooker. You got guys. I mean, you got a lot of guys. So there's a lot of safeties out there. Anthony Harris, probably the best one available. As for the Niners, probably not going to sign him. We have Jimmy Ward at free safety. Might be a bit too expensive. So Anthony Harris, probably my number 1 guy that Nate did not mention. There's other guys that I'd like better, but Nate will talk about them in a sec. Number 2, Will Fuller, Joel's favorite player of all time. As you see, shout out Joel right here. This is Joel's favorite player of all time right here. So Will Fuller, I mean, he's probably one of the best receivers available in this class. He's coming off that PED suspension and everything right there. So he could really help a team. There could be guys that the Niners really, the Niners I heard really like him a lot. So, or maybe I heard a rumor about that. So, possibly, I don't really know. And number 3, I'm just name 3 for now. Juju Smith-Schuster, as Dom said in the comments right there. Steelers might lose Juju Smith-Schuster. It's really uncertain with what the situation is. He's been rumored to so many teams. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now. Nate, apparently I only tell Nate to say 3, so I'll let Nate say those 3, and I'll mention the 2 guys briefly at the end because they're not as important that I have. So Nate, who are your 3 guys? Or do you have anything else to say about my guys? Sorry.
No, I like the guys you said. You said talk about best free agents available, so whatever. Yeah, my first guy was Kenny Goliday. I really like him. I think he's a really good receiver. He does have injury concerns, but he can get the ball. He's an alpha receiver that I think whatever team he goes to, he's going to make an immediate impact. He was definitely my favorite of the free agent wide receivers available. Allen Robinson too, or did he get tagged?
Robinson got tagged.
Okay, yeah, never mind. So yeah, of the guys that were available, definitely Goliday. I think he's played with so many different quarterbacks, with Stafford being hurt pretty frequently the last few years. And
him being hurt too. He's been hurt a lot too.
Yeah, the injuries are a concern. I just think he's a really good receiver, and he's definitely my favorite one that's available.
Yeah, man. I mean, Kenny Goliday would be my number 1. Again, you took him from me, so that's why I have him not on my list. But Kenny Goliday, I really like a lot. I think he is the best receiver available. Another reason why I didn't put him on my list is it's likely that he's going to sign with the New York Giants. That's not done, though. There's a very good chance that happens. So that should come. That should probably come tomorrow. He's meeting with the Giants tomorrow. There's mutual interest. I bet they get a deal done tomorrow. So that should come out tomorrow, in my opinion.
Yeah. My next guy was Desmond King. He got traded from the Chargers last year to Tennessee.
Yep.
Before that, though, he was an all-pro, like one of the best slot corners in the NFL, coming off kind of a down year. So he's not under the radar because he's been a good player in the past, but coming off a down year, I think he's someone that could go to a new team, a new system, and really thrive for maybe not as much money as he would have gotten if he hadn't had like not even a bad year last year, just a little shaky, not at the level he was at. So I think he's someone that to look out for that I think could be a really good signing wherever he ends up going.
Yeah, definitely an underrated guy. I know there's a lot. The cornerback depth is kind of crazy so far. You had Barrett earlier. He got signed. There's not that many cornerbacks have been signed besides that. You had Witherspoon. A lot of the Niners guys got signed, but other than that, Pat P got signed too. You have guys like Xavier Rhodes, Desmond King, Casey Hayward, Adoree Jackson. There's a lot of cornerback depth out there. So that's another thing. Teams that need cornerbacks got to get on that soon. So Desmond King, probably one of the best slot corners available, if not the best slot corner available. So he's been an all-pro player. So I definitely like Desmond King a lot. In my opinion, there are better cornerbacks available, in my opinion, than Desmond King. I like Casey Hayward a bit better. But Desmond King, when you look at that value, slot corner is always hard to find in the NFL. You have Kalen Williams. You got Troy Hill, who I really want, or Kalen Williams again. Desmond King might be a bit too expensive for us. I don't know. Or maybe you put Emmanuel Mosley at slot corner. But Desmond King, definitely a guy to keep an eye on. And definitely one of the most recognizable names out there, especially at slot corner.
Yeah, mine was not necessarily like best guy available, but I think a value signing that's you could get for not a ton of money that could still be a really valuable player.
Gotcha. Yeah, I kind of went best available. So we definitely took two different approaches to this. But
so then going into my next guy, like Melvin Ingram, he's obviously not one of the best guys out there, but I still think he can be a really productive pass rusher.
Absolutely.
And I don't think he'll get a lot of money. So he's someone I feel like the Bills don't have a lot of cap space, but he's someone I'm interested in to help the pass rush. Any team, everyone's always looking for pass rush. He's someone that I think could come in, good veteran presence that I think is still a pretty good player. And I don't think he'd be a ton of money. A lot of the younger edge defenders are getting a lot, but I think you get him on a 1 or 2 year deal for not a ton of money.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Melvin Ingram would be a good signing. And kind of to your point, Joel asked this question earlier in the video. Name a few guys that you want the Bills to sign the most, or just one player that you want the Bills to sign the most, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really have any cap space left, so I don't think signing someone. I've seen a few rumors maybe that they could trade for Kareem Hunt. That's something I'm super interested in because
where have you seen those? Have you just seen those on Instagram or something like that?
Yeah, there was a few. I don't remember who. It was not a big reporter, but someone that was decently credible.
That would be
the Browns possibly shopping him because the Bills were interested in him when he first signed with the Browns. It was between the Bills and the Browns, so he's someone I'm definitely interested in for our run game because it's not where it needs to be. Our O-line was hurt a lot last year, so I think that was the biggest reason. But like Devin Singletary, I don't love. Zach Moss, I'm fine with Moss. I'd want it to be Moss and someone else. I don't think Singletary is really the answer at running back for the Bills.
Yeah, I think Zach Moss is probably a bit better. For when you look at Buffalo, I think Zach Moss is a bit better. Singletary had a down year last year. I think they're moving towards that running back by committee. In my opinion, the best fit would be Travis Etienne, who is similar to Kareem Hunt too.
I want him.
So yeah, Travis Etienne. Those are two guys. I would not be surprised if they took him in the draft. Cornerback 2 is another thing that you might want to look at. I know you signed who was it? Was it Dean Marlowe?
Levi Wallace.
Levi Wallace. There you go.
Today.
They re-signed Levi Wallace. So there definitely is some room for the Bills to improve. And I mean, they have obviously they made the AFC Championship. So
yeah, I don't think they're going to add a corner high in the draft or in free agency at this point.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. I think you're probably just looking in the draft somewhere late rounds, mid rounds, something like that, maybe early rounds. I don't know. I don't know the Bills' approach to the offseason. They would probably have a better sense on that about where they're looking for the draft. But yeah, is there any place you think any draft tidbits that you have real quick, Nate? Or
no.
All right.
I mean, for the Bills, I think like corner maybe. They signed a UDFA last year, Dane Jackson. He played a few games and was pretty good.
Yeah, so I heard about
that. But
is that the guy? That's the guy out of Pitt, right?
Yeah, or he was a 7th round pick.
Yeah, I looked at him in some drafts last year, late 7th. I thought he would be a good fit. Played some games with the Niners, so yeah, for sure. All right, Nate. Before we wrap this up, anything last you want to say? Anything you want to say before we head out?
I don't think so.
Perfect. All right. Well, Nate, appreciate having you on. Always good to have you on. Gotta get you back on another time. Talking free agents, always fun to do. Guys, that's going to do it. We're going to do some more free agent content later in this week. Maybe with Nate, maybe with other people. I don't know. We'll talk about NFL stuff. We'll talk about 49ers stuff as well. So stay tuned for that. Also, new Talking Niners show either Friday or Saturday coming out. That's going to be on some more Niners free agents. Again, guys, make sure to follow us on Twitter at Talking Niners Pod. Check out the Talking Niners podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. But guys, that's going to do it for this show. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Go Niners.